The humid air of Port Moresby clung to my skin. A familiar, oppressive blanket that usually served as a prelude to something illicit. Today, it felt thicker. A premonition. The children, bless their noisy little hearts, were safely at school, their innocent chatter replaced by the low hum of the ceiling fan struggling against the midday heat. Little Junior, Susan and Jack's 1-year-old, was finally down for his nap, his soft snores a gentle rhythm from the bilum. The house, usually a cacophony of 4 adults and 3 children, finally offered a sliver of silence. It was a silence Jack and I craved. A silence we abused. My heart hammered a frantic drum against my ribs. A familiar beat that had soundtracked 4 years of stolen moments. Jack's hands, rough from his construction job, found my waist, pulling me backward against his solid form. The kitchen, usually the domain of shared meals and hurried mornings, became our clandestine stage. His breath, warm and smelling faintly of the guava he'd eaten earlier, ghosted over my neck. "Are you sure?" he rumbled, his voice a low vibration that traveled through my spine. We never wasted time. The urgency was part of the thrill, the constant threat of discovery sharpening every sensation. My hands moved quickly, unbuttoning his fly, sliding down the zipper. He groaned, a deep, guttural sound that thrilled me. "Oh, Philo," he breathed, his voice thick with desire. My fingers brushed against the hot, heavy head of his tight DY, already slick with coke water. It was massive, a thick, dark column that filled my hand, making my own husband's modest offering feel like a child's toy in comparison. Lawrence was a gentle lover, attentive, but he simply didn't possess Jack's sheer, overwhelming raw power. MRP me effortlessly, tupla like blow me wrapping around his waist, my lap riding high. Thighs blow me squeezed his hips, the rough denim of his jeans scratching deliciously against my bare skin. He carried me, not to our bedroom, not to his, but to the guest room on the ground floor, the one furthest from the nursery, furthest from any potential ears. The door clicked shut with a soft snick that felt deafening in the silence. He didn't even bother to set me down. My lap, a light cotton shift, was already bunched around my waist. Our pingablem were quick, deft, finding the elastic of my panties, yanking them down. They snagged on my knees for a moment before he kicked them away. The cool air of the room hit my exposed con, making me shiver. It was already wet, throbbing, anticipating. Pin blow can't blow me, a tiny knot of nerves, pulsed with a hungry ache. "Can't blow you wara good steretje," he murmured, his voice laced with triumph as he pressed his hips forward. "Het blow cockblum mark him good can ho blow me." I gasped, a small, involuntary sound. "Always for you," I repeated, my voice breathless. My hands tangled in his thick, kinky hair, pulling his head back slightly as I leaned in, kissing him deeply. Tongue blow me meet emblem, in a fierce, hungry dance, tasting his desire, his impatience. Sakim tongue blow me inside lon mouseblem. A wet, intimate slurp that sent shivers down my spine. His other hand found my susus, squeezing gently, his thumb teasing my pins through the thin fabric of my bra. It hardened instantly, aching for more attention. He backed me against the wall, his weight pressing me into the cool plaster. Tupla like blow me tightened around him, urging him on. "Please," I whimpered, the word barely audible. He pulled back slightly, his eyes burning into mine. "Say it, Philo. Say what you want. I want you inside lon me Jack. Me like him cock blow you now yet." My voice was raw, urgent. The need was a fire in my belly, a desperate, consuming heat. He grunted, a primal sound of satisfaction. He adjusted his stance, his large hands grip him as blow me, lifting me higher. Cockblum, thick and rigid, found my slick opening. Headblum pushed in, slowly, deliberately. I whimpered again, a low moan escaping my throat. MP me good stare filled me, every inch of him a delicious invasion. "Oh, fuck," he hissed, his eyes closing for a moment as he pushed deeper, inch by agonizing inch. I felt him breach my outer lips, then the deeper folds, thick headplum pressing against my calm walls. My body convulsed around him, clenching, welcoming. The first full thrust was a shock, a sudden, powerful plunge that drove the air from my lungs. Ha! My back arched, my head rolling back against the wall. He was so big, so utterly filling. My calm grease stretched to accommodate him, a delicious agony that quickly turned to pure pleasure. The schlicking sound of his fart plicoke sliding into my wara depths filled the room, a rhythmic, obscene music. He began to move, a slow, deliberate rhythm at first, pulling almost completely out before plunging back in. Each thrust was deep, powerful, hitting my depth with a dull thud that resonated through my entire being. My hips bucked against his, meeting his force, desperate for more. My nails dug into his shoulders, leaving crescent-shaped marks on his dark skin. "Can you feel? You feel so good," he groaned, his voice rough with exertion. Sweat beaded on his forehead, glistening under the dim light of the room. His muscles, taut and defined, flexed with each thrust. "Don't stop," I begged, my voice a ragged gasp. My head thrashed against the wall, my eyes squeezed shut. The world narrowed to the sensations between Tuplalek Blomi, the grinding of his tumbler against mine, the wet, slapping sounds of our bodies colliding. My canpin, already swollen and sensitive, rubbed against his tumbler bone with every upward stroke, building a delicious pressure. He picked up the pace, his thrust becoming faster, harder, more relentless. The bed creaked under our combined weight as we bounced against it, the rhythm of our coupling echoing through the room. My body was a live wire, every nerve ending screaming with pleasure. My susu pins, hard and erect, scraped against his chest, sending sparks through me. "Oh, gosh. Jack!" I cried out, my voice raw. My hips were a blur, matching his frantic rhythm, trying to absorb every inch of him. The pressure in my core built, a tight coil of impending release. My can gripped him, milking him with every thrust, desperate to drain him. I felt the wet heat of his balls slapping against my ass cheeks, a constant reminder of his presence, his power. He leaned down, his mouth finding my neck, sucking a bruise onto my skin. "You tight now wara good steretulewa. My Khan queen." His words, whispered against my skin, fueled my fire. Cupside blow me come hiti me then, a sudden, violent convulsion that shook my entire body. "Aya. Oh. Jack," Tuplalek blow me clamped around his waist, my inner muscles clenching, squeezing his enormous malio. Wave after wave of pleasure coursed through me, a delicious, overwhelming torrent. My body trembled uncontrollably, my breath coming in ragged gasps. He groaned, a deep, primal roar that vibrated through me. His thrust intensified, becoming even more frantic, his body tensing. "I'm close, Philo. I'm so close," he gritted out, his voice strained. He pulled back slightly, then plunged in with one final, earth-shattering thrust, bearing himself to the hilt. His body stiffened, a low growl escaping his throat as he capsized him warblem deep inside me. The hot gush of his kakwara filled me, a delicious, heavy sensation that left me breathless and utterly spent. We stood there for a long moment, panting, our bodies slick with sweat, still joined. The silence that followed was thick with the aftermath of our passion, broken only by our ragged breaths and the distant hum of the ceiling fan. My legs felt like jelly, barely able to support me, but Jack held me securely, his arms wrapped around my waist. "Pa Ken," he whispered, his head resting against my shoulder. "That was incredible." "Always is," I murmured back, my voice still hoarse, my body tingling from head to toe. I could feel his warmth inside me, the soft pulsing of his spent fart plomalio, and the slow trickle of his kokwara against my inner thighs. It was a messy, glorious aftermath. He slowly pulled out, the wet schlick of his DY leaving my can feeling hollow, bereft. My knees threatened to buckle, but he kept me upright, his hands still on my waist. I leaned my head against his chest, listening to the frantic beat of his heart slowly return to normal. "We should probably get dressed," I said, though the words felt heavy, unwelcome. The thought of breaking this intimate bubble felt wrong. "Yeah, I guess," he sighed, his voice laced with reluctance. He leaned down, placing a soft kiss on my lips, a lingering taste of our shared transgression. Just as I began to slide down, easing my legs from around his waist, a sharp, distinct click echoed through the room. It was the sound of the door handle turning. My blood ran cold. Jack's eyes, wide with alarm, met mine. Time seemed to stretch, distort. We were still naked, still tangled, still undeniably caught in the act. The door swung open, not slowly, but with a sudden, forceful push that revealed two figures frozen in the doorway. Susan, her face a mask of shock and betrayal, and Lawrence, his eyes wide, uncomprehending, then slowly, agonizingly, filling with a pain so profound it made my stomach lurch. What is this?" Susan's voice was barely a whisper, a strangled sound that held the weight of 4 years of lies, now laid bare. Her gaze swept from my naked body, still pressed against Jack's, to his exposed DY, still glistening with my kanwara, then to our intertwined hands. There was no mistaking it, no denying it. Lawrence, my husband, simply stared, his jaw slack. His face, usually warm and expressive, was utterly blank, as if the shock had wiped away all emotion. Then, a shudder ran through him, and his eyes, dark and haunted, finally met mine. The accusation, the hurt, the utter devastation in them was a physical blow. Jack, ever the pragmatist, even in the face of utter catastrophe, moved first. He stepped away from me, grabbing his jeans from the floor. "Susan," he started, his voice rough, but he couldn't find the words. I stood there, naked, exposed, utterly shamed. My body, which moments ago had been a vessel of exquisite pleasure, now felt like a grotesque spectacle. My eyes, unable to meet Lawrence's, dropped to the floor. The silence in the room was deafening, punctuated only by Susan's ragged breathing. "Philo," Lawrence finally said, his voice flat, devoid of all inflection. It was worse than a shout, worse than an accusation. It was the sound of something breaking, irrevocably. Susan, finding her voice, let out a choke sob. "Jack. How could you? With my own sister-in-law? In my house?" Her voice rose, laced with a raw, visceral agony. She clutched her chest, as if physically wounded. "It's not what you think," Jack tried, a pathetic, desperate lie that hung in the air, transparent and useless. Lawrence's gaze fixed on me. "Not what I think, Jack." His voice was still quiet, dangerously so. "I'm looking right at it. My wife, naked, with my sister's husband. What else could it possibly be?" He took a step into the room, his eyes never leaving mine. The air crackled with unspoken fury. My throat was dry, my tongue thick. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. The shame was a suffocating blanket. Susan suddenly lunged forward, her hands balled into fists. "You filthy whore," she shrieked, aiming for my face. Jack, quicker, stepped in front of me, catching her wrists. "Susan, stop," he commanded, his voice firm, but she struggled against him, tears streaming down her face. "Let go of me. I'll kill her. I'll kill both of you." Her words were punctuated by ragged sobs. Lawrence, meanwhile, walked past them, his eyes still locked on me. He reached down, picking up my discarded panties, his fingers tracing the lace. He held them up, then dropped them as if they were contaminated. 4 years, Philo. How long? The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. I couldn't lie. The truth was etched on our bodies, in the lingering scent of sex, in the raw, exposed reality of our situation. Yes, I whispered, the single word a confession that tore through me. Lawrence's eyes closed for a moment, a spasm of pain crossing his face. When they opened again, they were cold, distant. Get dressed. Both of you. We are going to talk. His voice was eerily calm, a calm that terrified me more than any outburst. He turned and walked out of the guest room, leaving the door open. Susan, still struggling, finally broke free from Jack's grasp and ran after him, her sobs echoing down the hallway. Jack stood there, his face pale, his eyes meeting mine. Philo, he started, his voice low, but I shook my head. The moment for words was long past. I grabbed my dress, pulling it over my head, my hands trembling. The fabric felt alien against my skin, a flimsy barrier against the crushing weight of what had just happened. Jack quickly pulled on his jeans. The silence between us was no longer intimate, but heavy with dread. We walked out into the living room, where Susan and Lawrence sat on opposite ends of the sofa, stiff and unmoving. The air was thick with tension, palpable and suffocating. The scent of our transgression, even faintly, seemed to cling to the very fabric of the house. Sit, Lawrence commanded, his voice still unervingly calm, gesturing to the 2 armchairs opposite them. We sat, like errant children called before their parents. My gaze flitted to Susan. Her eyes, red-rimmed and swollen, burned with a hatred so intense it felt like a physical heat. She wouldn't even look at Jack. So, Lawrence began, breaking the tense silence, for years. Under our noses. In our home. While we were working, while you, Philo, were supposedly taking care of our children, and Junior. His voice was low, each word a hammer blow. Lawrence, I started, but he cut me off with a sharp gesture. Don't lie, don't make excuses. Just tell me why. His eyes bored into mine, demanding an answer I didn't have. Or rather, one I couldn't articulate without sounding selfish and cruel. Jack spoke up, his voice surprisingly steady. It just happened. We didn't mean for it to go on this long. Susan scoffed, a bitter, humorless sound. Didn't mean for it to go on this long. 4 years, Jack. 4 years of sneaking around, of lying to my face, of defiling our home, our marriage. She finally looked at him, her eyes spitting fire. You disgust me. Susan, please, Jack pleaded, reaching out a hand, but she flinched away as if burned. Don't touch me. Ever again. Her voice cracked, but her resolve was clear. Lawrence leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. So, Philo. You wanted more. Was I not enough? His voice was softer now, tinged with a raw vulnerability that twisted my gut. No, Lawrence, it wasn't that, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. You're a good man, a good husband. It was different. Different. Susan interjected, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Is that what you call it? Adultery? Betrayal? Destroying 2 families? I know what we did was wrong, I admitted, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. I'm so sorry. The apology felt hollow, inadequate in the face of the devastation we had wrought. Lawrence stood up, walking to the window, his back to us. Sorry doesn't fix this, Philo. It doesn't erase the last 4 years. It doesn't erase the image of you with my brother-in-law, in my own house, in front of my sister." His voice was devoid of emotion, a dangerous sign. "What do we do now?" Jack asked, his voice subdued. Susan finally looked at me, her eyes cold. "You leave. Both of you. You both pack your bags and you leave this house. Tonight." "Susan, where would I go?" I asked, my voice trembling. "That's not my problem, Philo. You made your bed, now lie in it. Just not in this house. Not with my husband." Her gaze hardened. "And you, Jack? You're no longer my husband. This marriage is over. I want a divorce." Jack flinched as if struck. "Susan, please, let's talk about this. We have Junior. Junior will be fine. He has me. He doesn't need a lying, cheating father who thinks it's okay to screw his wife's sister-in-law in the guest room." Her words were sharp, cutting. Lawrence turned from the window. "I agree. This is over. Philo, I want a divorce too. And I want full custody of the children." My heart plummeted. "No. Lawrence, please. The children need their mother." "Do they? A mother who cheats on their father for 4 years with their aunt's husband. What kind of example is that, Philo?" His voice was firm, unyielding. "They're just kids, they won't understand." I pleaded, tears finally stinging my eyes. "They will when they're older, and I'll tell them the truth. You broke our family, Philo. You and Jack. You shattered everything we built." His gaze was unwavering, his resolve absolute. Susan stood up, walking over to Lawrence, placing a hand on his arm. "And as for compensation," she said, her voice steely, "you both owe us. For the emotional distress, for the betrayal, for wasting our time, for destroying our marriages. And for the use of our house for your sordid little affair. Compensation." Jack scoffed, though it lacked conviction. "Yes, compensation," Lawrence echoed, his eyes narrowing. "You two have been living here, enjoying the benefits of this house, while engaging in this obscenity. We will be seeking financial restitution. You will pay for the damage you've inflicted on our lives, both emotionally and financially." The weight of their words settled upon us, heavy and inescapable. Our secret, once a thrilling, illicit escape, had now exploded, leaving a crater of destruction in its wake. The house, once a shared home, now felt like a prison, its walls echoing with accusations and the bitter taste of shattered trust. There would be no easy escape, no quiet fading away. The consequences of our actions had finally caught up, and they were demanding their pound of flesh. We had wanted raw, unapologetic pleasure, and now we would pay the price, raw and unapologetic. The silence in the room stretched, pregnant with the end of one life and the terrifying, uncertain beginning of another.